Mic check 1 2. It's the Y2K collector, and I am back. Right now I'm going through my charger. I have a bag that I keep all of the chargers for my handhelds. And I usually only dive in here when I'm looking for a specific charger. I do have some doubles. But today I'm trying to get the charger for my PlayStation Vita. Got a little dust on that screen right there. Yeah, really dusty. So I'm looking for my Vita charger as well as the charger for my PSP that I keep in here. I had wound up selling off my, I think at one time I had like all versions of the PSP. There was like a 1000, a 2000, and I think a 3000. And I just remembered the 2000 being like the best one for me. And I think either the 2000 or the 3000. I think the one that I have is the 3000. Yeah, so got that there. And right now I'm just trying to get these chargers out to kind of fire these bad boys up. It's been a while since I've turned these on, and I feel like when you kind of let these sit for too long, either like the batteries die or they just don't turn on for whatever reason. And I know it's been a long time since I've played my PSP. I was definitely going hard with the PSP for a little bit there. But then once I kind of got like my analog pocket and I got some DS games, I kind of let my PSP sit for a while. So the plan is to get this bad boy charged up for today and just, you know, kind of let it run a little bit. You know, I kind of look at it like when you have that car that you've got sitting in the driveway for too long, and you kind of need to just fire it up every once in a while, get that engine running and make sure everything is working, and that these batteries don't just dry out. I think this is the charger for this Vita, or this might be the charger for my, nope, this is the charger for my other Vita, which I am gonna fire my other Vita up because there are some PlayStation 1 games that I have on my PS Vita that I just told myself I would never really be able to afford to buy. Like, I was just like, I can't afford to buy some of these games that are available on here, so I'm going to have to just, I guess, download them, which kind of leads me to the topic of today, right? Which is emulation, digital downloading, so on and so forth. Now, I talk a lot about retro, and I've never really hated on emulation. I think emulation is great. I have an analog pocket, which is an emulation beast. And I think emulation definitely has its place when it comes to having a collection, building a collection, because quite frankly, there are just certain games out there that I just can't afford. I just can't see myself paying the asking prices for some of these games. And as much as I love them and as much as I want to play them, there are games that I will pay for, and then there are the games that I just will not make the sacrifice for. Now, a lot of the more expensive games that I have in my collection, I acquired the bulk of them, the majority of them. I want to say 99.999% of those games were acquired via trade. Like, I did not necessarily come up out of my pocket and say, okay, I'm going to spend, you know, a ton of money for these games. What are some of those games? You already know those games. Last Resort. I talk about it all the time. Definitely an expensive game. Burning Rangers, right? One of the most expensive games in my collection. Ridiculously expensive. What else do we have? Hyperduel. And it's funny because I feel like I'm the only one who talks about this game, Hyperduel. Maybe because it's an import, but this game is a beast. This is one of the most expensive import games I've ever seen. Of course, it's a Sega Saturn shooter, so that might be why. But these are just some of the games that, you know, are in my collection that are definitely expensive, but they're not games that I've ever really, you know, came out of pocket for. Why? Because even in my collecting heyday, even when I was going crazy buying up games and building my collection, I knew that there was a storm brewing, a financial storm brewing, and I still wanted to give myself room to be prepared for what I knew would be coming. And that is the current situation that we find ourselves in with our economy. I started to talk about it a little bit last night when I was, mentioning, just keeping things in, keeping your priorities in order, making sure that you are set, making sure that your financial house is in order. And we're starting to see some of these things play out, right? So I need to get this here. So what we're seeing is EA. I saw an article today on CNBC where EA is actually going to be laying off 5% of its workforce, which basically amounts to roughly, 670 or 700 jobs. And I'm not sure how many collectors out there, what they do for a living. I would have to assume, just based on the demographics of my channel, that most folks who collect retro games are older. And by older, I mean you're somewhere between like 20 and 40. I know that's a wide range, but most folks who are collecting retro games, you find yourself in that bracket. You're somewhere between 20 years old and 40 years old, and you're either reliving the nostalgia, or maybe it's, games and consoles that you saw your parents play, and it's something that you're really wanting to get into. But these are tough times. People are definitely getting laid off, and you want to be frugal. Frugal is the name of the game. Frugal is how we have to move if we're going to be in a position to continue this hobby after the financial storm is over. We know that things happen in cycles. We know that, the economy goes down, then it goes up, then it goes down again. And we were riding high for a while, but that's all changing. And when I see reports like EA, discontinuing certain developments that they're working on and laying off, 700 people, which could be an entire organization, it reminds me that, hey, listen, keep things in order, keep your priorities in order, save wherever you can. So for me, I'm making this video basically to say that I don't think that emulation is a bad thing. As much as I love collecting my hardware, as much as I love having the original artifact in my collection, there are times where you just have to emulate. On my PS Vita, I have digital versions of, like I have Klonoa for the PS1. I also have Adventures of Tron. Those are two PlayStation 1 games that, as much as I love them, I've never been able to find them in the wild, to where I could trade for them. And I refuse to pay $500 or $600 for one video game at this stage in my collection or collecting. It just doesn't make sense. If you're out there blowing that kind of money and you have it, by all means, go ahead and do it. A lot of the collection, especially when it comes to the retro stuff, I've traded for them, or I've always had them in my collection. The bulk of the money that I've spent has been on the newer games, like the PS4 stuff and the Switch stuff that you see down there. And I know I talk a lot about the Switch and how much I've sold of the Switch, but I still do have a decent Switch collection. It's not as big as it used to be, but I still have a decent Switch collection. But I'm just trying to be smart. I got a lot of games here that I can play and enjoy in the meantime, and hopefully when we start to get a little bit more clarity with where things are going on in, with the economy, then maybe I can dive in and, maybe make some more purchases. But right now, for the current game collection challenge that I'm running, I am selling. I'm actually selling to build up the collection for more of the retro games that I want. So I do have this box of games here with a number of games that I'm selling, from PlayStation 2 games to PS3 games, PS4 games. And then I'll also have a PlayStation 4 that I'm selling as well. So got some things that I'm trying to get rid of. I'm hoping to be able to squeeze anywhere between, I don't know, maybe between $300 and $500 for all the stuff that you see here. Hopefully I can get that much for it. And if I am able to get that for it, then that'll put me in a great position to be able to pick up my first retro game that I'll be picking up for April, and that is Super Turrican 2. So pretty close. I already had some money in the budget, and I think I'm getting pretty close to being able to pick it up. I have some sales in the works right now, and I should be able to get that all squared away by mid-month to be able to have Super Turrican in my possession by the end of the month. So Super Turrican 2 is one of the more beautiful games on the Super Nintendo, in my opinion. I know that they re-released it on the Switch as a part of like this Turrican flashback combo thing. But as many of you know, I'm really interested in the retro stuff. So let me know down in the comments, do you think there are times where emulation is okay? Do you think that emulation is a bad thing? Do you use a little bit of both in your collection, or are you all or nothing? Let me know down in the comments. It's the Y2K Collector. Hopefully you're having a good Tuesday. Take it easy.